Hello and welcome to new Vista Solutions video training series. This training was created to help mortgage lenders better understand how energy efficiency is being incorporated into the residential real estate market and how property owners are benefiting from it. The video you're about to see was created by our partner IncentiFind. IncentiFind manages the nation's only database of more than 25,000 green energy incentives that are available to help property owners pay for energy efficient renovation projects. At the end of the video, you'll be directed to a website where you can learn more about green incentives and how to access the IncentiFind database. We hope you enjoyed this training and look forward to answering any questions you might have.
Hello, and thank you for attending this webinar brought to you today by IncentiFind. This is a continuing series in webinars that we're doing for the lending community to help provide you with more information on different areas about sustainability, in which case you become then a subject matter expert to help your clients with being able to do their either energy or their water saving type projects, in which case you provide lending for and when they come to you for their services. And today's topic that we're going to be touching on is on water conservation, and then how you can integrate IncentiFind's products into your sales cycle so that they can get access to free money through different types of incentive programs that are available in your community. So for a little bit on myself, I am your webinar host today, and my name is Nicholas Zuba, and I'm a strategic advisor on residential lending, and I've been in this role with IncentiFind for just over 2 years. And then a quick nod to our founder and CEO, who is Natalie Campos-Goodman. She would be your resource for any information on IncentiFind's products and how you can get access to incentives for your project. So just a quick introduction about IncentiFind and to tell you a little bit about who we are. We are the nation's only database for real estate incentives, in which case we're bringing cost savings for doing new construction or existing building upgrades that would have some priority with doing energy or water saving improvements. And this is a way to be able to give you some free money to be able to then to defray the cost that is associated with doing those energy or water saving type improvements. The company was founded in 2017 and is presently based in Houston, Texas, in which case we serve all 50 states of the United States of America, and as well as in Canada, our neighbors to the north. So we just branched out to that area in that country to be able to provide our services. And we have presently a team of about 21, and we keep on growing every single day. And we're currently housing about 24,000 incentives to help with basically helping to defray on the cost of your particular project. And this is the only database that is able to connect 25,000 projects to $20 billion worth of incentives, just using a 2-minute survey. And this survey I will touch on a little bit later on in the webinar to explain how exactly that works and how that would integrate into your process. Now, the 24,000 or more incentives that I just mentioned about, they breaks down into certain types of categories. That could be tax, grants, fee waivers, rebates, or even other types of bill credits. And as I mentioned, we do serve new construction and existing building type projects. And in terms of new construction, we can be helpful in helping on projects that involve brownfield development remediation, EV charging stations, a building that's looking to get certain types of certifications like LEED or WELL, and as well as then on certain other types of opportunity zone opportunities. And then certainly for existing buildings, we could be helpful with anything with regard to a property that might be in a PACE eligible area, other resilience type improvements, and as well as smart building technologies as well that can help with reducing and basically maintain. You're doing a good job just on maintaining how you're using your energy at any given time. All right, so with that out of the way, and you have a little bit more sense about who IncentiFind is, now let me just go into talking about what points we'll be touching on in this webinar today, which includes why water conservation is important, why lenders should be caring about water conservation, then a primer on what water conservation could look like in terms of the kinds of improvements you could do, and then how to incorporate IncentiFind products into your sales cycle. So let's start off on asking, why is water conservation important? Well, first and foremost, we understand that climate change is a real existential threat that we are dealing with still at this very moment. And that climate change remains that growing and worsening threat, and that it's causing then, as a result, reductions in the availability of certain natural resources, like water, for example. I don't think you have to go any further than, say, out west in California, or as well as too, in around Nevada, they have what's known as Lake Mead. Lake Mead is actually a primary water source for around the Las Vegas area, and that lake has seen water levels dip to some of its lowest ever because of the increasing consumption and there not being enough precipitation to replenish those resources. And so we recognize that climate change has had a real impact on the availability of these natural resources. And so that certainly is one major reason why we should be thinking that water conservation is important. Now, the second is that this also too could be leading to a tighter budget. Now, we recognize that water is a more cheaply priced natural resource, certainly more cheaply than, say, energy or any other types of resources. But the problem is that with water waste, that can be a problem in, say, a residential home or in a commercial building. This can lead then to unnecessarily high water bills if it's not corrected. And then so with higher water bills, you might find that that's going to start constraining budgets for homeowners in this case, or certainly commercial property owners, to basically then be able to handle then paying for other priorities, whether it be a mortgage or any kind of other type of responsibility for that home that they're trying to, or their building that they're trying to maintain. And then certainly more in line than with what I was mentioning just on climate change. So then water scarcity, is certainly a concern because of the worsening threats of climate change, and we recognize water availability is starting to become more of a problem. We will start to then see other kinds of problems and issues that could result in water scarcity. For example, certain areas may not have then fertile land to be able to do farming. And then if you can't do farming, that lowers then the food availability in the food chain, and that could lead to a rising cost then in food, for example. So these kinds of issues in this case can then have this propelling effect in this case that will then translate into other issues down the line with regard to other aspects of our lives. And so that's certainly, I think, all part and parcel of why I think water conservation is something we really ought to be paying attention to. So understanding why water conservation is important and why we should be paying attention. So then why should you as a lender then care about this particular issue? So first and foremost, I'll say again, is about water cost. So as I've mentioned, water leaks can lead to much higher water bills, and that can cause then those costs to get out of control. So if that water consumption is not being monitored properly, that's going to lead to those higher costs, and that's going to lead then to competing cost priorities for a homeowner, for instance, and where they're going to have, competing priorities with, paying for their, mortgage bills, paying for their, television or phone bills, anything else to be able to stay in their home. That's going to certainly start causing issues for them to be able to handle paying all expenses of operating a home. Then back certainly to climate change, I mentioned certainly before why it's such a big existential threat and why that's been leading to water scarcity problems. But then also too, with climate change and with water scarcity problems, this could also affect the safety and soundness of the asset, in which case your institution could be holding a mortgage on. So look no further than what happened in California over the last few years, these worsening wildfires that then can lead to the destruction of those particular real estate assets. And that's going to make you lose then the home, in which case you've placed the mortgage and security interest into that property. That's then no longer going to exist. And now you're going to hold a mortgage where there's no asset then currently. And so that should be of concern, certainly to you as a mortgage or any kind of other traditional lender, that you should be paying attention then to this as a potential concern. But then lastly, why you should be caring is that you should then be able to become a subject matter expert on this area. Because then when you learn about water conservation more, it's going to help you become more experienced on a particular topic that could lead to more business opportunities for you as a lender. Because if you understand that there's certain kinds of projects a property owner is going to come into you for, that you think water conservation improvements could actually fit into the scope of what they're doing, that's going to lead you then to be able then to increase, the amount of business you could do and increase the size of that loan that you're going to be able to provide to a homeowner for them in the project that they're going to be doing. So that all together should be, again, why lenders should be caring about this subject on water conservation. All right, so now let me go into talking a little bit about the different kinds of improvements that could be available for doing a water conservation project inside of the home. So the types of improvements you could be looking at for doing a particular project, it could amount to things like changing out water fixtures so that you're not using then as much water when you run those particular fixtures. So it could be things like faucets in a sink, shower heads in your bathtub or shower area, and so on and so forth. Toilets can certainly be one where you can see an opportunity for reducing water consumption with every time you flush. Appliances, so certainly very much heavy water users, and it can be things like your washing machines or dishwashers. Improving plumbing connections that can help you reduce leaks. So whether that be plumbing elbows, changing out hoses, or any kind of other connections in this case, that would be certainly a way to help reduce water consumption, because now you're eliminating leaks that could actually lead to more water consumption and higher water bills. And as well as other rainwater harvesting systems. So like rain barrels or other cisterns could also be good ways of basically helping to use natural water in this case for doing what you have to do to water your property, and then not having to rely on an internal or underground sprinkler system that you might have to use. All right, so on to the first type of improvement, which could be a water fixture type project. So water fixtures are very important of our lives, and we recognize from washing our dishes to everyday hygiene, this is something that encompasses our lives every single day. And according to the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA for short, the average family household is going to use 300 gallons of water per day when you basically are using these kinds of fixtures. And water fixtures then can be that low-hanging fruit for making water-saving improvements inside of a home. And so as I've mentioned, the types of water fixtures that could be, in fact, being replaced to help reduce how much water consumption that a property owner uses could be faucets in their sink, shower heads inside of their shower spaces. So let me go with just doing some calculations with you here about, what could look like a very sort of, typical fixtures that you could be putting in your property, and then what kind of usage then that can possibly look like if you had an average household that is utilizing those particular fixtures. So let's start with like a faucet. A typical water usage rating for a faucet for any kind of home that maybe says 20 to 30 years old could be 3 gallons per minute. So that's what the GPM stands for. For a shower head, the typical water usage rating could be 5.3 gallons per minute. So let's say, for example, with a faucet, say you've used it, it's used 10 minutes per person per day. And then say you have 3 people inside of your home. And so then that could equate to, just by using your faucets every day, that could be 90 gallons of water that's used then for using this typical water usage rating on the faucet that I just mentioned about. Then say on the shower head, maybe you say that, the time that a person takes a shower on average could be around 15 minutes, say, per day per person. And then you have the 3 people in your home, then you multiply all that together, then you could be looking at that could be using almost 239 gallons of water per day on a shower head that has a typical water usage rating that I was just mentioning before as well. All right, well, let's say though, if we then change out those fixtures as part of a retrofit project that could help them with water conservation matters. So let's say we have a faucet, in which case now you put in a faucet that has a more efficient water use rating of only 1 gallon per minute. And then using those same exact calculations as before, so that they use it for 10 minutes per day per person, 3 people inside the home. Now you've reduced that water consumption for faucets to 30 gallons in this case per day. Then on that same shower head, say you change the shower head where now it's a usage rating of only 2 gallons per minute. And you still keep the same amount of time, in this case that person's in the shower, and then multiplying by how many people might do that, you might be looking on average then 90 gallons of water then is used when people take showers, in this case in an average home. So that's, you see then when you put it all together, that this is then a tremendous amount of savings that they're going to be able to get. So the difference between in a faucet where they would have the typical water usage then versus the efficient water usage of the example I just gave, that could that could help to lead to a savings of 60 gallons of water on average per day. And then with the shower head, if you went from using the typical water usage rating to then a more efficient water usage rating shower head, you're going to be able to save close to 149 gallons of water on average per day using those shower heads, which then can ultimately lead to a 208.5 gallons of water usage savings that you'll be able to get from doing those particular improvements. And so it's very clear and obvious that these water efficient fixtures can then be able to produce significant water savings when you go from those inefficient fixtures to more of the efficient ones that you might be able to install. And then certainly as an example, there are different types of incentive programs that are out there in different territories. So just for a few examples is that, you can get in Los Angeles free faucet aerators and shower heads, for basically water district customers that are around that area. Or if you go to in Atlanta, you might be able to get a free replacement of fixtures such as within a tub, shower, or the bathroom sinks, for senior citizens, for example, and around the Fulton County and Atlanta metro area there. So that's something also too, where again, you're incenting people to be able to make those kinds of improvements and basically be able to pay no money, in this case, to pay for the installation of those particular fixtures. All right, so then off to our next type of improvement that you can see, and that can be with the toilet that you have in your home. So basically, toilets are a very important part of our households, as we certainly know for obvious reasons. And it's certainly according to the EPA, they also say that on average, that 30% of indoor water usage can be attributed to toilet usage each day. So the fact that almost a third of our water usage comes from every single time we flush our toilets each and every day, that is a tremendous amount of usage for a household on each day on average. So, and then these older, more inefficient toilets can consume really as much as 6 gallons per flush. So think about that. 6 gallons per flush could be just going down when you're going to be flushing your toilet each time. And so doing that each time is going to amount to an amount of water usage that can really add up quickly for that homeowner and certainly increase their potential water costs to them. And so, in terms of the types of toilets you could be installing, I mean, we can go from the standard toilet in this case to what is then a more water efficient toilet. And of course, what you might see is a unique difference between each toilet is that, the standard toilet's only got one, particular flush function, right? You have the standard handle that you'll press down and it just gives you that one kind of flush. But on a more water efficient toilet, you might notice on the top, there's usually 2 different types of buttons in this case that you can press. If you probably press one of those buttons, that could be for liquid waste. But then if you're going to do solid waste, you then would press down 2 buttons in this case to be able then to flush, to get more water to go down so you don't stuff your toilet every single time. So, that will then be able to, that gets you to be able to distinguish between the types of waste that can go down so that then especially like on liquid waste, you don't have to then use all that water. It just might require a smaller amount of water to be able to do a flush each and every time. So once again, let me go through some examples of, the way that basically water, efficiency can then factor in this case, when we're looking at, some maybe, typical toilets, or we're looking at the water efficient toilet. So say on a standard toilet, we see maybe 7, gallons of water used per flush. And let's say that, there's about 5 flushes a day per person. And then there's 3 people in that household. And then that could add up right away to just being 105 gallons of water used on average per day just by simply flushing toilets in an average household. But then if we install a water efficient toilet, and that rating is only to be about 1.6 gallons per flush, And then say we have, again, the same average of 5 flushes per day in order to go and do that in your family and in your persons. And then you have 3 people still in the house, you're making use of that. That would then go down to only being 24 gallons on average per day. And in which case the total water savings then between the standard toilet and then the water efficient toilet is going to end up being 81 gallons per day on average. And so again, that shows that you can make a pretty significant change in this case in terms of how much water you use, which again is going to lead to certainly bettering the environment and then reducing cost to the homeowner who's got to pay those water bills. And then so just to some other examples then of incentives that could be out there to pay for water saving improvements like a toilet. So in Chicago, they have a free toilet tank bank in this case, and a toilet flapper, and some of these other types of improvements that can help with basically reducing the consumption of water when you basically flush your toilet. And then in Dallas, they have also for low-income homeowners in this case, being able to provide up to 2 free high-efficiency toilets in the Dallas water utility area, so that they can be able then to get the benefits of then reducing their water consumption in that fashion. So that's just a couple examples of the different incentives then for being able to install water saving incentives. All right, so now let's go on to talking about different kinds of appliances that could be more water efficient and how you can get incentives for that. So certainly, appliances inside of a home can represent also to a good portion of the water usage. But according to the EPA, they say that the average household use of these types of appliances is 22%. Say for just on like clothes washers as an example. So if a clothes washer is able to produce that kind of consumption, that shows that it's a pretty heavy water user at any given point when you have to go do your laundry. But then to a lesser extent, dishwashers use much less water, but you still can, again, be that good contributor to indoor water usage if it's used very often. So if you have a big family and you're constantly running a dishwasher, yes, that water usage is certainly going to add up alongside of the use of a clothes washer inside of your home. And so there are just certainly some types of rebate programs that Washington, D.C. and Chicago offers. Los Angeles also too has some improvement programs as well through their energy saving program, which also too can be able to include a clothes washer replacement for free. So that could also certainly give energy savings as well, but then also leads to as well the reduction in water consumption for that homeowner. All right, so how about then on plumbing connections? So plumbing connections inside of our homes, we recognize is more important than we realize because it's always providing us with consistent and uninterrupted water usage. And of course, the failures of us being able to maintain that plumbing system can lead to leaks that can go undetected. And then until you then open up your next water bill, you may not even know that. So, I was emphasizing that point earlier that, leaks are certainly crucial to make sure that you're keeping under control, because if you don't detect them, again, the only way you're going to find out that you have a leaking problem is when you discover you've got a much higher water bill than you might have anticipated. So it's very important that you do the basics of this maintenance so that you don't have that unexpected bill coming into your mailbox. And then the EPA says that households across the country each year could waste 1 trillion gallons in water just because of undetected indoor water leaks that occur. So again, this is a tremendous loss in a crucial natural resource that we're saying can in fact, that it is getting scarcer and scarcer by the day. So the more of that homeowners can do to help reduce basically the amount of leaks inside their homes, certainly the better at this point to help conserve water as a sort of critical and crucial natural resource in our world. And so there are some examples of different incentive programs. For example, you can be able to get a bill credit in Atlanta, which will reimburse you again for all the water leak repairs that you can make. So they would actually just credit you right back on the bill itself. And in Washington, D.C., they actually have some of these available for free if they make use of a weatherization assistance program that Washington, D.C. Is going to run in this case. And so, again, there's some examples of really how you can go about getting some of these costs repaid whether on bill or off bill in this case. All right, so lastly then, when we're talking then about rainwater harvesting, we have the ability then, if we wanted to be able to use sensors and as well as even harvesting type improvements in this case, that it's going to basically use that water for basically watering your lawn, your plants, so that again, you're not having to tap in to use your actual utilities water in this case through the form of sprinklers or any kind of other irrigation systems that you might install around your property. So that if you have the ability to capture that rainwater and then it can be used at a future time to water any of your plants or shrubbery and your grass, that's going to be able then to help, of course, reduce how much you have to use that municipal or utility water services to be able to do that for yourself. And so, there's different kinds of, these harvesting type systems that can get rebates in Los Angeles, for example. Looks like you can do it in Chicago, and then certainly in Atlanta as well. Again, you have these free rain barrel type systems or just rebates to help defray the cost to a property owner. So of course, what kind of improvements then that I was just talking about then could, include a water efficiency type project into it. So really, we think that all three of these types of improvement projects could actually involve having to be able to do a water saving type opportunity. So they're doing a general home renovation, doing a gut rehabilitation down to the studs of a property because they're going to do a major sort of maybe repurposing of space to be able then to make that a more modern space. And then as well as then certainly for ground up new construction. You're going to be finding ways then to make a property modern and having the latest and greatest, fixtures and technologies in place to help you reduce your water consumption inside of that home. All right, so we have a case study example of if we just focused on Los Angeles for a moment. We look at where, if you were to do all these different types of improvements, what could you get then from incentive programs that are managed and administered within the Los Angeles area? So for water fixtures, you'll have then the ability to get free faucet aerators and shower heads. If you then put in a water efficient toilet, you'll be able to get access to a $40 rebate for each premium high efficiency toilet. For appliances, you'll get one rebate per customer ranging anywhere from as low as $85 to up to $400 for putting in a new high efficiency clothes washer. And as well as then being able even to potentially get a free clothes washer replacement, in this case, if you're part of an energy savings assistance program. They don't offer any kind of incentives on if you were to do any kind of plumbing connections, but if you did a rainwater harvesting system, you'll be able to get water smart rebates through the Southern California water utility, where you can get then a rebate on rain barrels as low as $35, but then upwards of $70, and then a cistern where you can get as low as $250 or even as high as $350. And again, water conservation incentives are available again for any of these kinds of home upgrades. All right, so let's say, for example, if you had a customer come into you looking for a loan, and they're saying like, hey, we want to look at doing these particular kinds of projects. So maybe it could include an energy efficient roof with also doing these other water saving type improvements in their property. So let's say in Los Angeles, we did this then for a home that's maybe less than 5,000 square feet in size, but it's an existing home that's already 40 years old. So let's say they come in with doing these kind of projects, and they recognize that the total cost will be around $43,100. But with the incentives that they can get from the type of project that is listed here, they'll be able to get about $7,350 in total incentives across different types of programs that would then help to provide assistance for doing those types of improvements. In which case that can lead to a potential 17% in savings off the original cost of the project. So if you take the project cost, reduce it by the incentive amount, the final loan amount that you could potentially give as a lender then could only be $35,750. So by doing that, you're helping the property owner to increase the amount of value to them by able to get that free money for an incentive, so it defrays how much money that they're going to be able to take out for financing. And then at the same time, you're getting that loan to the property owner still, because maybe you've brought to their attention that they can do those kinds of improvements as well, and then you're going to be able to be a beneficiary of a loan in this case that you'll be able to give to them for their particular project. All right, so that's just an introduction for you on water conservation improvements. So now, if a property owner comes into you and they're interested in wanting to find out what kind of resources are available to help with their project, now you can be able to provide to them information through using IncentiFind's quick summary product. So let me go into talking more about what this product can do. And so if you do pique the interest of the property owner who is maybe considering incorporating water efficiency type improvements into their project, then this would be a good time to introduce the quick summary. And a quick summary is a report that's an affordable tool that will quickly summarize how many incentives are available in the borrower's territory to make those energy or even those water saving type improvements for their own home. And then the quick summary can get borrowers into the door for you as a lender to differentiate yourself from your competition. So it can actually be helpful to lenders to grow their home equity type line, their refinancing, if they want to get more value out of their home to do a project, for new construction type projects and other renovation type efforts. And then the lenders have the opportunity to provide, again, that valuable data and information to the property owner who may not have been able to know where to go look for information on how they could lower the cost of their project, and to be able then to qualify to get financing through your lending institution. So here's a screenshot of just what a typical quick summary looks like. And as you'll see, in the case of this example, in which case is the same exact example I took for you a couple of slides back. So this particular territory had 15 water conservation programs in this case that they could be able to get. And then they'll go into showing you a specific example for each of the different types of incentives that are available for the type of project they may want to do. So in the case of water conservation, they gave an example of a weather-based irrigation controllers rebate, in which case, that's helping to obviously reduce water consumption for how you're going to water, your landscape, your basically any of your shrubbery, your plants, and so forth. So that's going to be able then to show some actual value to them immediately about what kinds of improvements then that they could potentially get an incentive for. And then that could lead them in further than to then want to go and then explore further what other kinds of incentives are available, so that they can have that full information and complete information about what it is that they have access to do a particular project. All right, so then let me go into talking about how you can actually integrate this very same product into your sales cycle. So in the beginning, we find out that whether or not a project could be a good, either energy or water efficiency opportunity. The way that you would find that out is right at the application phase. That intake process, should allow you to, work as a lender to find out the type of project that the borrower is, seeking financing for in their home, so that then you'll know, exactly what they're going to be coming into you for. And then there are always ways you could think about energy efficiency being incorporated, or actually in this case too, water efficiency being incorporated into, the project. So that if that there's a particular kind of project that they're coming into you about, so let's say, for example, it's a standard home renovation type project that they're doing, which, could eventually just be, standard, renovation, of the aesthetics, or making use of existing home space better. They might be just coming into you for maybe some standard improvements like, upgrading appliances, putting in new water fixtures, possible plumbing improvements, and even, putting a new toilet in. For a gut rehabilitation project, where you're going down to the studs and you're gutting the entire, the entirety of the home and down to those studs, you're going to be able then to go in and possibly do, again, those same kinds of improvements. I think, all those could be up for grabs, as well as maybe some additional type improvements that we just went through. And then for a new construction project that's, completely ground up, newly constructed home, again, the opportunities could be, limitless. It can be, all the standard types of, water use is inside the home, rain harvesting, any kind of other efficient use of water for plants and as well as for other kind of shrubbery on the property. You can be thinking about any different types of improvements that could actually be helpful for doing, for putting that home together in this case. So if you encounter, any of those, kinds of, projects, and they may not list any of those types of, water efficiency type improvements on there, don't assume that they're not looking for those opportunities. That's why you get the chance and the opportunity now to educate them with that sort of knowledge and understanding that what we just went through today, to demonstrate that project could actually incorporate water efficiency principles into it. And so then if you then tell them about it, you could be piquing then their interest to pursue doing those kinds of improvements if they hadn't thought about it before. And so, all this together is that, again, you'll be becoming now more of a subject matter expert to be able then to determine where the project opportunities that could incorporate these kinds of improvements. And if you don't see it, you have the opportunity to educate them to incorporate those kinds of improvements into the project so that it helps to maybe increase the size of that project and then the size of the loan that you might be able to provide them for doing their project. Well, so that was today's webinar with respect to talking about water conservation. And I hope that you found this to be educational and very helpful to you and your lending institution. And of course, we always encourage you to go and subscribe, in which case we have a YouTube channel where you found us here. So we encourage you to subscribe, and so that you can be able to find out about more videos that we'll post in the future. They'll talk about other areas of sustainability that you also can become a subject matter expert upon. So thank you so much for listening today, and we hope that you have a nice day.